Whew! What just happened? Yes, when I finally sat down to write this toast, the spirit of Chevy Chase came immediately to mind. Actually, Shelley and I have been saying that all year because that type of response perfectly describes this entire year. Tanner and Shelley's 2017 adventure started the first week of January, and within 3 weeks, they closed on their first home together, moved everything from Indianapolis, began and completed both major and minor renovations to their home. And in order to accomplish this, sometimes they had to work and pull off 20-hour workdays. Now, I think most people would agree that project would be a setup for a disaster for most couples. Think about all the decisions they had to make, from the carpet to the floor to the size of the toilet. All in 3 weeks, but not these two. Nope. I watched Tanner and Shelley go through this process, and they only grew stronger as a couple throughout it. Now, most couples would probably decide after this project was over to sit down and maybe relax a little bit, kind of settle in, we call that. But nope, not these two. As soon as February rolled around, it was the first week, and Shelley was like, okay, got moved in, now it's time to plan the wedding. And not just any wedding, but a huge wedding. Woo! I tried to convince Shelley to wait, but she wouldn't have it. So from February until now, Tanner and Shelley's poor new home grew into a massive wedding planning headquarters. And it's a really good thing that their new house came with a really huge shed, because it quickly became a wedding storage facility in no time flat. Didn't it, Tanner? For those of you who don't know, I happen to have a little bit of knowledge on behavioral medicine for my profession. It wasn't too far into the month of February when one evening I got a text message from Shelley that said, "Do you know of any anti-anxiety medicine I can get over the counter?" I said yes and waited. She said, "What?" I said, "Miller Lite, Bud Light, Chardonnay, Rosé, vodka." But in all seriousness, as Tanner mentioned already, he's already being a very good husband. Shelley has been the mastermind behind this wedding, and even though it looks like she's hired a professional planner, it was all her. And amazingly, she managed to pull it all off without a trip to the psychiatrist and without a trip to the cardiologist, I might add, from the last several days and, well, about a month, I'd say. Whew. Shelley certainly has been on the road of the less traveled this year. But that's kind of what the small sisters do best. Shelley and I have a lot in common with each other, but one of our common denominators is that we both like to live life to the fullest. We've spent years having fun since we were little, and then later shying away from all those serious adult commitments, such as buying and owning a house, being married, having kids, etc. We have always loved our freedom to go and do as we please, not to be tied down. And of course, though, all throughout our 20s and 30s, we dated guys, but mostly just for fun. And as we got older, our criteria for Mr. Right only transformed into a longer and longer list, making it seemingly impossible. I mean, could these people even exist? We wondered. And if you take a look at it scientifically, it gets even worse. By then, about 90% of the population was married. Divorce rates were lingering around 50%. And anecdotally, we knew some of our friends that were already on their third marriages and had like 3 or 4 or 5 kids. So statistical analysis didn't help the situation. Shelley and I at one point talked about moving in together. Now she, of course, was going to be in charge of buying the lawnmower and mowing the lawn, and I just had to have a house big enough to have my own office. But one of the best perks about being single is that it allows plenty of time to have fun with your friends. And Abigail is here tonight. She was one of those indie friends who knew Tanner and thought Shelley should meet him. Problem was, at the time, neither one of them was interested in meeting someone. However, one night, a long time after, Shelley and Tanner were both at the same place, and Tanner said he was going fishing the next day. Now, Shelley just overheard this, but it grabbed Shelley's attention immediately from across the room. Fishing? Did you say you were going fishing tomorrow? Now, yet once again, most people, whenever they go on their first date or kind of hang out with each other to get to know one another, dinner and drinks is kind of standard. But nope, not these two. They got their fishing poles and went fishing. So on this day, some handsome young man from Millersburg, Pennsylvania, made a grand entrance into Shelley's life. And from the very first time they hung out, he began to change the possibilities of her world. In the meantime, Shelley's poor friend Abigail hasn't hardly seen her since. I will never forget the day that Shelley called to tell me Tanner had proposed. It was a brief conversation, as she had many calls to make, so I congratulated her, and then when we got off the phone, I cried happy tears. And then some more happy tears. And then some more happy tears, and then I thought, okay, what's going on here? And then it hit me. Not like a ton of bricks, though. It was more actually a response of a ton of bricks were lifted off of me. Woo! Tanner, you and your entire family have given my sister everything I would ever want for her. I realized that day I will never have to worry about my sister finding Mr. Right ever again. Woo! What just happened? Okay. With you and your family, Tanner, I know that she will be loved, protected, and well taken care of for the rest of her life. Thank you for making the seemingly impossible perfectly possible. Oh, and sister, we've spent years building our reputation as the Small Sisters. And even though your last name has changed, I expect us to continue to live up to our reputation, and in our hearts, we will forever be the Small Sisters. Ladies and gentlemen, what just happened is my sister got married. Now, would everyone please stand and join me to celebrate this new couple for the toast? Yee-yee. Glasses up, everybody. Shelley and Tanner, on behalf of myself and all of your guests here tonight, we wish you a lifetime of love and happiness. To my sister and my brand new brother-in-law, to our family members, and to our dear friends, the brand new couple, Mr. and Mrs. Tanner Prouse. Cheers!
For all you who don't know me, my name is Michael Otstat. I'm Tanner's good friend and best man. I've known Tanner for the last 7 years. We met at Del Valle College, where we were in the same fraternity, Alpha Gamma Rho. We've had a blast the last few years, but today I'm truly honored to be by his side on his wedding day, especially to see him marry his gorgeous bride. Like I mentioned, Tanner and I were in the same fraternity. I knew we'd be close from the moment I met him at an AGR event. We started talking and realized not only were we from central Pennsylvania, but we were turf majors. We seemed to share the same interest in beer, music, and the outdoors, and the same definition of getting wild and crazy. It was a privilege of becoming his big brother in AGR, which seems pretty fitting with our antics. Throughout our time at Del Valle, we created great memories, some of which we both can't remember, or my wife said I cannot mention. but I'd like to take a moment to highlight some of the things I know we both are allowed to say and care to hear. For instance, our friendship was put to the test when we decided to rent a house with 3 other roommates. We somehow supported ourselves and our partying habits throughout this time. I was lucky enough to work with Tanner at Saucon Valley, which could have been a disaster, but we pulled through and still managed to keep grass alive. I think lots of coffee and jamming out to Wiz Khalifa was a big help. We somehow made it to graduation with passing GPAs in 2012. It was hard to let the previous years end. We both ended up scoring jobs, Tanner in Indiana and me in Maryland. Though we have spent a time apart since graduation, we stayed close and have been thankful for our friendship. But let's not let Tanner take the spotlight, because Shelly, you look beautiful tonight. She has truly made Tanner the best version of himself. 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Shelly at my wedding and finally putting a face to the girl he has been talking so much of. Once I met her and I seen their chemistry, I knew this was the girl for Tanner. I could tell she could keep his little ass in line. I'm so happy for you both and see you through this journey as a married couple. I cannot wait to see what your future holds. Welcome to the married life. With this being said, can I get a yee yee one time? Yee yee! I want to say congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Tanner Prouse. Can everybody raise their glass? To Mr. and Mrs. Prouse.